burning down pretty good now. Just wasted all this time and effort. Let's give this another shot. Hello, welcome back to another episode from Pale Horse Survival and Tactical. I'm Bill, glad you could join me. Today we're going to work with some rawhide and a mallet. Stay tuned. Alright, so I recently shot an episode where I constructed this mallet from a downed sapling, and it is seasoned nicely with no checking. But it is made from a ponderosa pine. I just kind of took advantage of what I had available. It's about half the weight that it was when I initially started. And since it's a softwood, I wanted to go ahead and apply a rawhide wrap to this as a protective coating to hopefully extend the life of this this mallet, the striking surface. So we're going to go ahead and work on that today. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. What we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to cut some lacing out of this piece of rawhide. It's a nice thick piece, and then this is what we're going to use for the wrap. It's real thick rawhide. It's a nice piece. And what I do is I get the rawhide from Rawhide dog chews. These are the 9-inch dog chews, and they come rolled up exactly like this. Soak them in water overnight. And you can have some little pieces of filler material on the inside. Pull that out, put it off to the side, let it dry completely before you put it inside a container, because it will mold and be ruined. And you can save that, and you make hide glue out of that. I have a whole ton of those scraps. I never throw my scraps away. And that'll be another subject for another episode down the road. But this will be the wrap that will go around the striking surface, and once that's dry, it'll be super hard, and I think it'll work pretty good. I don't believe anybody else has done that with one of these mallets, so this may be exclusive. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I haven't had a chance to research it, but to the best of my knowledge, nobody's wrapped these to protect them. So, excuse me, I've got some pine needles starting to spark up over here. All right. You can use a pair of scissors if that's what you want to do. I've just trained myself to use my knife for a lot of different tasks. For me, it's less items that I need to carry. So I'm going to demonstrate how I do this. And if you do choose this method, be very mindful. You can cut yourself very easily. So if you're kind of accident prone, you might want to stick with scissors. We're going to cut the lacing about a quarter to 3/8 of an inch wide. Now when you do this, it doesn't have to be exact, but you don't want to waver too much. And if you do waver, you want to go wide instead of skinny, because the skinny part will be your weak point. When you cut a piece of rawhide for this purpose, you want to round the edges instead of having a square 90-degree corner. That way you just follow the edge all the way around. This is the way it is done. And a piece of rawhide will yield a lot of cordage. You'll actually be very surprised at how much. It really doesn't take very long to produce cordage in this manner. So when you're doing it, just keep your fingers back behind the sharp edge, just like you don't want to get it up in the front. I'm probably just going to, well, maybe I won't process all this. I'm going to be making a mask for my hatchet. There'll be another upcoming episode of Rawhide Mask. I'll just process cordage in that video as well. Not going to need very much lacing for the face of this. We've probably got enough right now. So I'm just going to go ahead. That should be more than enough here. I'm just going to terminate this. When you terminate it, so I'm going to show you a very nifty way of working with this. You want to terminate it in a point. Don't just square it off, because we're going to use that as a kind of a needle to go through holes. So you can see, just a few minutes and we already have We have probably 3 foot of cordage here. Give it a light stretch. And we're good. You can see how both sides are at a point, both ends. And you're going to see why we do that here in a little bit. So the knife out of the way. Set this out of the way temporarily. Actually, I'll put it back in the bag so it stays moist. You can see that this is just big enough width-wise. This is some really thick rawhide. Now we have a little gap here, and this is where we're going to apply our lacing. I have a hole punch, small portable hole punch set that I bought from Tandy Leather some time ago, and that is in my possibles bag, and I keep that handy for in the field work such as this. This is just barely big enough here. Which doesn't really have to cover 100% of it, but if we get about 99% of it covered. So what we need to do we need to trim this because it is crooked when they initially cut the rawhide. And I think this is probably a little bit crooked here too, so we'll have to trim the end of that. So what we're going to do is, I'll pull out my fine detail knife here. Go ahead and even this up using the head of the mallet as a guide. We can see here when they cut this back edge is square. It's a nice straight edge. This is the edge that's off. So I think what we'll do is, so it will Otherwise this is cut in here, so I think I'm going to go ahead and take about 1/4 of an inch off of this edge. We'll have a little gap on either end, but that's okay. Typically when you're striking in the middle of the striking surface is typically in the middle of the head. And looking at this, we'll go ahead and have the primary striking surface here. There's a couple of knots. That's the harder areas. So I'll choose that as the primary striking area, and then we'll lace it on the back side where there are no knots. The knots are going to act as a it's a much harder surface there. So we're going to go ahead and eyeball this here and take just a little bit off. This is some really thick rawhide. I mean, even when it's wet and soft, it's pretty difficult to cut. My knife is very sharp. That's a lot better. It's a lot cleaner looking. That sound you hear is somebody in a little sports car has actually gone off-road onto the trail. They get stuck. I know they're going to ask me to pull them out. This edge is pretty wavy, so we're going to clean that up. I don't mind having a little bit of a gap on the back side where the lacing is. There, that looks a lot better. So let me go ahead and get my hole punch set up, and I shall return. Stay tuned. Okay, this is my little hole punch set. It has different size punches, and they thread in. They thread into the this body right here. I have a piece of sandpaper in here I use to sharpen them, keep them nice and sharp. They tend to dull out after a while. Okay. And we'll punch a hole about every, oh, I guess about every inch, roughly. Alright, that's not looking too bad. Flip it around. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, and then we will begin lacing it up in a bit. Stay tuned. Well, my camera's shut off, so I'm not sure exactly what I missed here. Okay. So I was preparing the rawhide here, and we punched a hole in the cordage on the end, threaded it through, and then brought the cordage back up, threaded it through the hole, so you don't have to tie a knot. It just self-tightens onto itself, and I don't know why the camera did that. So it's basically like a lark's head knot there, and I'll demonstrate it again when we get down to the end and terminate this. I just happened to look up, my viewfinder was blank. Modern electronics are just very aggravating. Okay, so we have this attached. This is how you attach your rawhide. No knot required. Make sure you don't have a twist in here. This is why we have our tapered ends. You can use it as a needle. You go right through a hole here. Just like this. You don't have to get it real super tight. You want it snug, but not tight enough to tear these holes out. Rawhide, when it's dry, is super durable and hard, but it can be damaged when it's wet and soft. So you want to pull this in. The rawhide will shrink about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch. So you want to get it snug. This is going to do quite a bit of shrinking. Again, you don't want to twist your rawhide cordage here, the lacing. Nature's building materials. Nature really does supply pretty much everything we need. Well, everything actually, you just have to know how to utilize it. You can always, if you find a little slack in here, just backtrack and pull some of the slack out of the lacing as you go. Snug it up. Just like that. Snug this a little bit more here. Once this dries, I want it to be attached to the head of the mallet pretty tight, so when I'm using it, it doesn't work its way loose. I looked up and I seen the viewfinder black, and I thought, well, I know I have plenty of battery power. Just checked it not long ago. And we just about have this wrapped up, pun intended. And I'm going to demonstrate how this is done since the camera was off. You don't want your cordage to twist on you. Okay, so we're going to go back across to here. We're going to punch a hole right here in the center of this cordage. right about here. Just like that, right in the middle of the cordage. Run it through the last hole. And then bring your cordage back through the hole. The hole that we just poked in the center of the cordage, we're going to run this through from the top down. This is how you terminate rawhide cordage. Once it dries, it'll be just like that. And that's where we started from. Same exact way. You just loop it through, then back through the hole, and then pull it tight, and it's like a lark's head. It'll pop right on there. And then we'll go ahead, and once the stuff dries, it shrinks and it's really rigid and stiff, and it's definitely not going anywhere. We'll go ahead and terminate this with another taper. And in the end, I'm just going to tuck that edge right underneath this edge here. Piece of cordage that we just cut at a taper. I just stuffed it right underneath the edge of the rawhide there. So that's good, clean work. Now this will shrink, like I said, about 1/4 of an inch probably. So it's going to shrink this way, and it's going to shrink this way, so it'll really pop on. It's going to shrink against this lacing, and the lacing is going to shrink. So this is really thick rawhide, so that's going to provide a pretty good protection for the striking surface here. I'm going to be using this for some future projects, so stay tuned for those. In upcoming episodes, I have some building projects that I'm going to be working on up here, and so I'll be putting this to use so you get to see it in action, and we'll get to see how this holds up in actual use. Well, the rawhide is dry and has obviously shrunk. I wanted to go ahead and show this before concluding the episode. And when we started out, if you'll remember, the rawhide was more or less at each end here, and I mentioned previously that it should shrink about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. So I put a tape measure on here, and it's exactly 3/8 of an inch. So that is the rate of shrinkage that you can expect from rawhide in projects. So you can allow for that amount of shrinkage, but came out pretty good. So that should make a pretty good guard here for this striking surface. And it dried. I've got a little bit of checking here, very minor. It's not bad at all. Could have been a lot worse. Try to cure the wood as slowly as possible. So that's really the only checking. So I'm pretty happy with it. So I'll be putting this to use here in some upcoming episodes as the season goes on. I have some wood carving projects and different things planned out. So this is the finished product. Yeah, and this lacing, you can see with the holes punched in here. That way you don't have to tie a knot. It's just a very clean way of beginning and terminating rawhide lacing. Just poke that hole in and run it back through itself and pull it. It acts like a slip knot, and you just pull it and run it, and then terminate it and tuck the end up underneath. And once this dries, it's stiff. It's not going anywhere. So hope all of you enjoyed the video as much as I did making it today. Please like, subscribe, and share. I hope all of you are having an outstanding day or night, depending on where you are located, and I will see all of you very soon on the next one. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.